So, welcome to this episode of Brewed with Change. Today, we have with us a very special guest. We have Mr. Avinash Sharma, who's co founder of ElectricPe. ElectricPe is a path paving company in the electric vehicle ecosystem, at building out charging infrastructure for owners and operators of electric vehicles. So I encourage you all to sit back, enjoy, get yourself a lovely cup of coffee, and just enjoy the conversation between Avinash and I as we walk through his journey personally and professionally with Electric Pay. So Avinash, thank you for making the time and for being here with us on Route for Change by GFC. Uh, why don't you start off with giving us a brief intro, or well, not really brief, but an introduction to yourself. You can take the long road, of course, and please just introduce yourself. What made you get into the business, your motivations, etc. Would love to hear that.
Thanks a lot, Karan. Glad to be here. So, before ElectricPay began, I was building one of India's first battery swapping companies. That's where I learned a little bit about electrics. And before that, I was working with the cab business of Ola. Again, very early stage part of the company. So that's where I learned about how do you build platform businesses at scale. Um, and having spent, I think, largely most of my time on the field, I was certain that clean mobility, primarily led by electrics, is going to happen very soon. Now, there's one thing we are absolutely certain here, that we are today faced with a human civilization survival problem, Karan, given the pace of climate change, given the global warming that we are witnessing. And our stated vision here at ElectricPay is to save the planet 1 mile at a time. Now, I formed a set of hypotheses. Well, to be honest, those were bets, but colloquially, they're called as hypotheses. But I took a bunch of bets before starting ElectricPay. First, everything is going to switch to electrics in India. One, two, electric vehicles need to refuel, that is recharge, so to say. Three, now EVs refuel differently when compared to traditional ICE based vehicle, let's say petrol based vehicle. In case of a petrol based scooter, for example, and India is primarily a 2 and 3 wheeler market. You drive into a gas station, you refuel under 5 minutes at best, and then you drive out. However, electrics typically take a longer time to recharge. Now, the next bet which I took was, from first principles, I said, okay, what you need to recharge EVs are electrons, essentially speaking, electricity, which is available in the common parking lots of residential buildings as well as corporate offices. A typical scooter takes about 4.5 to 5 hours to charge. And those charging times are going down, of course, correct? And you're at home for 8 to 9 hours, you're at office for 8 to 9 hours. So my bet was that the charging behavior would be very akin to how we charge our mobile phones. You go home, you plug it in, right? Overnight it gets fully charged. Then you go back to office, you use a little bit, and then you go to office and you plug it back in. And then my next bet was, therefore, that all parkings will become, so to say, electric petrol pumps. And once in a while, if you overuse, you will top it up on the go. Now, each of these electric petrol pumps would operate with their own app, because it's an app first world, it's an app first economy. My next bet was, it might be potentially inconvenient for consumers to, let's say, have 27 different apps on the phone to keep looking if I'll get a charging station here, or if I'll get a charging station here. It does not reduce range anxiety, which is one of the major blockers for somebody to purchase an electric vehicle. It actually increases range anxiety. And then I formed the last bet saying that, okay, potentially, if there is one single app using which you can find charge pay, or you can find fast charge pay, or maybe you can find swap pay as well, then it might solve the customer's problem of having everything in one place. Convenient, simple, brilliant experience. It will solve the electric vehicle OEMs problems, that then more and more EVs can be sold, good quality product can be created at affordable price points while charging is solved for. And also it will benefit the charge point operators, people who are actually reselling electricity, mom and pop stores also, for example, in terms of getting utilization. And that's how we began ElectricPe.
Awesome. No, and I really like appreciate that. So tell me about your personal journey. We spoke about your hypothesis for actually creating this. You've come from a background where you've run a business of cabs, of ICE cabs, right? For Ola. And then, like, of course, the opportunity for you dawned upon saying that, listen, the world is going to move to electric. Let me create this business. But what I would love to like understand was a little bit more is what was your personal motivation to actually start ElectricPe?
So the motivation has always been to create a large scale impact, create something which outlasts me, and it definitely outlasts this generation. That was the primary motivation always.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, so thank you for that. Uh, and what is your what vision do you have for ElectricPay? How you are in in three cities right now. You've got a few thousand touch points, few 10,000 charging touch points in these cities. What is the vision that you have for Pay? And given that you have so many stakeholders that you're already impacting, you said like
Yeah.
good for the OEMs, it's good for the consumer because it's a one app, one access, really easy. It's also good for small businesses who are now becoming like
Like
essentially
micro entrepreneur.
infrastructure
Yeah.
providers, right? So you've got impacts on so many different stakeholders. So, what is the vision that you actually have set out for ElectricPay?
Very simple. So there's a interesting nuance which I learned that, and I speak specifically for the India geography, of course, correct?
Yeah.
That in India, what we seek beyond products that solve daily needs, etc., is we seek trust. Correct. For example, there might be multiple different applications or methodologies to order, home delivery of food, but there are largely only two apps that people use, right? You use Swiggy and then you use Zomato, correct? There's a very inherent humane reason for that, correct? Because I trust that I'll get good quality food, I'll get it on time, I'll pay the right price for it, and if there is some dissonance in this entire experience, correct, this brand, this organization will deal with it in the most appropriate manner, in the most fair manner, and my experience will be very, very seamless. So therefore our vision here is to create the most trusted EV charging platform. Simple.
Wow. Okay. So the most trusted EV charging platform. Now, uh, on that note, there are quite a few people you're competing with, right? And this is an infrastructure business, and at the same time, it also requires technical knowledge, softwares, firmwares, etc., to actually uh, to enable the ecosystem, right? So how do you perceive competition in this segment? And is this going to be a business like how we have seen traditionally with ICEs, where you have three or four large OMCs, for people that is oil marketing companies, who sort of dominate the space, and they become like essentially between them it becomes an oligopoly? How do you see it, and how are you facing just basically your competitors?
Interesting question. There's one more thing which I learned. So my overall career, by the way, spans about 12, 13 years, primarily in sales and marketing roles, mostly working across India, different states. What I learned was India consists of many Indias within, right? Every market is a completely new market. There are specific nuances to a market in, let's say, like a Delhi market versus a, let's say, a Hyderabad market versus a Bangalore market. Correct. The food preferences, the buying behavior, seasonalities of purchases. Correct, which is significantly dependent on festives. Correct, Diwali, Dashera, Onam, so to say. So the way, that's one. The second understanding which I got was traditionally in the ICE world there were, let's say, 5 6 OEMs. Correct. The EV world is following with the trajectory of the mobile phone evolution. So there were 4 5 original brands which sold mobile phones.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the automobile side, and then something similar happens on the charging side as well. And then suddenly there was a spurt of, let's say, 100 200 different kinds of brands which came in. Correct. Of course, there was some consolidation, etc., which happened, but the number of brands did not reduce to the original 5. Correct. The number went from, let's say, 5 to about 200, but then it settled down at maybe 30, 40, 50 brands. Each product has its own specific use case at a certain price point, and Indians, as Indians, we are all very value conscious buyers. So combining these two observations, the way I see is that every market within India will have a lot of hyper local players. There'll be a large scale charge point operator based in the Delhi NCR region. Then there'll be somebody who will be very strong in the southern part of India, and then somebody in the eastern part of India. And which is why we are very clear. We steered away from the hardware side of the business, right? And we said we'll create a single platform layer which for the consumers creates a seamless experience. Kind of like, let me give you a parallel. In a city like Bangalore, for example, there are multiple restaurants of different kinds, like Indian food, Chinese food, continental, etc., etc., etc. If you would like to do a dinner reservation, there is one app using which you can, let's say, using Zomato, for example, you can book the restaurant. Now, what is essentially required here is once the booking is confirmed on the app, and once you actually reach the restaurant at, let's say, 9 p.m., it should be physically available. One. Two, they should honor your booking, which you've done through a third-party app. Three, the menu which is shown on the app should actually be available, and the person should not say that, okay, these 4 items are not there on the menu. Four, the restaurant should be seamlessly accepting payments via the application because, well, it allows you to do so. And the entire experience has to be seamless. Okay. So that's where ElectricPe plays a role in combining all of these various charge point operators across geographies, across markets, to have one seamless experience for the end consumer.
Got it. So you potentially are going to be like a Swiggy, Zomato for charging station providers.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Like on that point, you actually mentioned something else as well, right? You said EVs fuel differently. And there's this eternal debate. Battery chemistry, fast charging, slow charging, 1C, 4C, etc., 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 right? We're seeing people have different views. People are saying that, listen, lithium ion is not going to last. We need better chemistries. If that comes in, what happens to charging infrastructure? How are you sort of seeing this entire space? It's a very interesting sort of topic. I love to hear different sides of it. So I would love to get your take in terms of, charging, fast charging, battery chemistries. How do you see that like evolving over the next few years?
Good question. So there are two perspectives to this. Perspective one is charging times and the amount of range available. These are going to continuously improve. They're already improving. So charging times are going to definitely go down, one. And two, the amount of range which is available in every charge for the automobile is going to increase. We've seen this trend, one, which makes the consumer's life even more easier. From our business's perspective, it's like if I have to give a petrol example, there are two, three different kinds of petrol as well, right? There is a regular petrol, then there is a unleaded petrol, then there is a power petrol, and then there is jet fuel as well. Correct. However, from our perspective, we are just a platform which allows people to access regular charging, fast charging, or swapping as well.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. All right. Uh, can we talk a little bit more about your impact? You have a few stories that you can share, customer testimonials, like etc., about just basically the impact that your business as ElectricPay has actually created on the lives of different stakeholders.
We've got about 100,000 people who've downloaded our application. 60,000 of them actually use it on a regular basis. Yeah, we've achieved this over the last about 15 months, give or
Okay.
take.
Okay.
Uh, we have about 20-25,000 chargers, third-party chargers, which are already onboarded on our platform. We are the most, not just the largest, but it's a perspective to being largest, but to also being the densest networks. I keep giving this example. Having 100 chargers, let's say in one city, versus having 100 chargers across 100 cities. The former is more important. One. Two, at the end of the day, this is again to quote a colloquial ICE example, it's a petrol pump a la business, which means a charger should be first of all available nearby. One, two, it should be up and running. Three, it should bill correctly, and four, any issue should get resolved. So we are not just the largest network, but we are also the most dense, as because we are there in only three cities, correct, with about 25,000 chargers. And we are also the network which is the most up across industry. So that's something we continue to focus on. The number of kilometers that people have traveled by refueling using ElectricPay's platform, so to say, has just crossed 3 million. About had crossed 3 million about 6 months ago. And I was looking at yesterday's number, we just hit 10 million green kilometers.
Oh, wow. Wow. 10 million green kilometers. Do you know how much does that translate to in terms of actually fuel saved?
So it's a humongous number, I think.
If I just had to take look like an average of maybe about 15, right? So you're
Yeah,
at least talking about 950,000 liters of fuel
easily. Yeah,
potentially
yeah,
saved, like almost a million liters like of fuel saved. That's a lot, right?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And this is in a span of what? This is in a span of 3 years?
No, so we incorporated the company in June 2021. Then we raised a couple of rounds of capital. We built out the product, etc., etc. We got the organization built out. So we really started executing about 15 months ago. So all of this is in 15 months.
Got it. And look, just on the point that you brought up about that it's good to be a dense player in one region rather than being a national player with you know, and I actually find this very interesting because startups that I talk to, a lot of times are just chasing national presence. They're not looking, they don't understand a market fully, and they don't understand going deep into a market and how critical it is actually to get those learnings before you scale up. So you've made a conscious decision to actually do that. How has that helped in your scale up journey with ElectricPay?
It's a very interesting point, and that's something which I was also constantly asked and faced with in terms of why only couple of cities, Avinash, why not scaling nationally, why etc etc etc. But what's very important is a couple of guiding principles that we have at ElectricPay. One, we're extremely customer obsessed. Two, we are extremely people obsessed internally. Correct. We keep tweaking our org in order to shape it like a vector, which is hyper focused from a consumer and market perspective. Three, we are always in a relentless pursuit of the absolute truth, which again, happens by being out there on the field. Four, focus. Luckily, we've not lost focus. There were a lot of opportunities available to scale up.
Okay.
Five, we always think long term. My position here is it takes at least 100 years to build large scale impact via building an organization. Six, build sustainably, and sustainably in economic terms. Correct. A business is supposed to make cash. It's supposed to make profits as well. That allows the company to then continue to reinvest.
Yeah.
Correct. And how all of this has helped us is we've just grown by 17x in the last 7.5 months.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Wow. That is phenomenal. 17 times in like 7.5 months. I can't even calculate the compounded annual growth rate over there. It'll be in a few thousand%, but
And that's exactly what we've just discovered in terms of Karan, the power of compounding. We just
yeah,
stumbled upon the power of compounding. We kept doing the same things, showing up every day, doing the same thing again and again, build for customer experience, build for availability, build for trust, keep doing the same thing again and again and again and again. And then suddenly we realized, oh wow, we've just grown this much.
it's the network effect, right? Like essentially you create a network of very happy customers in a region, and those customers create customers
Yeah.
for. So the network effect is very strong with that strategy. That's actually, I think that's a testament to why like I see such a phenomenal growth with you guys. No, that's amazing. And I think the one thing that you actually touched upon is unit economics is very key. Uh, uh, your unit economics, of course, like are positive.
Yeah.
And that's also one of the things that I see. It though the trend is changing a little bit now, but uh probably a few years like ago, unit economics was something which was the whole theory of like, if I'm buying something and selling something, I need to make a little bit of money, right? I can't just be selling at a loss because that strategy is unsustainable. So just on that note, right, your focus on actually creating positive like unit economics, why is it so important? And that's the one thing that I would want to like also highlight from your perspective, like as a successful founder, to other founders like in this space who will probably see this podcast, is why does positive unit economics actually make so much of a difference?
Because of the purpose of building a business is to build a business, and a business is supposed to generate profits for its stakeholders. Correct. Stakeholders would include the shareholders of the company. Correct. Primarily, and then of course the colleagues, the employees who do work for the company. Correct. So it's as simple as that. Yes, you are right. A couple of years ago, and our first fundraise, by the way, Karan, was in that perspective of the market, where there was so-called a bull run. Correct. We were again lucky that we got an amazing set of investors, like GFC, and then we also have investors like Bloom and Mycelio on our cap table, who kept our focus even in a market like that, to build for the next 100 years, build sustainably, because the purpose is to build a business.
Got it.
And business is not supposed to create losses. It's supposed to generate profits at the end of the day.
So what I'm understanding what you're saying is like essentially you don't want to misprice your product, because then that sort of is also like like an unstable, unsustainable strategy. And at the same time, you need to generate profits to be able to give a return or even like afford your uh your employees the salaries, etc. So it's actually very crucial to the business. Very nice. uh we spoke about the investors, right? And you've raised a few rounds like of financing as well. Uh, how are you perceiving, in your perspective, as a founder sitting on the other side, right? How do you see climate tech investments and now this whole flurry towards investors wanting to invest in this space? Uh, how are you seeing that entire shift in focus? And what are the sectors, according to you, that you see a lot of promise from a return perspective uh, that investors should also focus on?
I I met, I think, and not now. I think almost 8 9 months ago. I had met someone from the investor part of the perspectives, and he said, Avinash, uh, climate is recession proof. Correct, because well, a season, a change in temperature does not uh, get correlated with any economic realities, correct? Especially if it's a recessionary trend. So one, most importantly, I think climate is now a mainstay. It's the frontline conversation that everybody is having. Proof of that, governments, policymakers are investing real dollars, fame subsidies, production linked incentives, 1.5 lakh crores, coming up with the vehicle scrappage policies. Today, you can take income tax rebates, ATE, I believe so, if I'm correct, or ATEE, if you buy an electric vehicle. Correct. There's specialized tariffs you pay, lower per unit if you're using electricity for. So those are real dollars being invested by the government, and therefore, ab initio, it means that all of this will become electric. India itself, in by about 2030, will be anywhere between 200 to $50 billion market. Electric vehicles plus charging infrastructure plus the charging itself put together. So it's an amazing place to invest. Therefore, we are seeing a lot of investments actually coming in this sector, despite the overall slowdown, in the market. It's a great time to invest.
Got it. There's also this like debate and question. While investors like us usually are profit seeking like investors, and we come in at a certain stage where businesses have positive unit economics, they're on a growth trajectory, like etc. So uh, in the early stage, right? Like probably like I would say at the idea stage and at the seed stage or pre-seed, uh, uh, we don't have enough of an ecosystem like of investors. Usually that's been small ticket angels, a few family offices. But in your view, do you think we need more sort of capital in those areas to actually spur on more innovation, especially in the segment that you operate in, which is electric vehicles and the ecosystem?
I, I, I I actually think there is a lot more options available today, current compared to maybe 10 years ago, or 15 20 years ago, when the likes of Flipkart began. Venture investing was at least to India very early, a decade and a half ago. Today there are multiple options to access capital, including individual and independent angel investors. Be angel platforms are available. But I could never imagine actually angel investing happening through platforms in startups. Right? Earlier it was just investing through platforms in public markets, Zerodha, for example.
Yeah,
And then there is this entire set of family offices, and most growth investors, like people who invest at a growth stage. Most of them have a dedicated seed, pre-seed, in stage investing function or a division available. So I truly believe that there's enough and more capital access available. What we definitely need is more entrepreneurs who are willing to, so to say, take the plunge, correct, and then and believe truly in building for long term.
got
Honestly
it,
speaking,
got it,
correct.
got
Access
it.
to capital is available.
So I actually wanted to keep this towards the end, but since we're on that topic, right? What like advice would you give these young like entrepreneurs who are sort of either on the edge or have already started with their idea, right? What are the three, four sort of learnings or hurdles that you have gone through you would tell them to avoid?
I think the first and foremost is the why has to be absolutely clear. The why uh, of becoming an entrepreneur or building a company, because yeah, and this is my learning, and it seems to be consistent when I speak with other founders, that there are, to be accurate, more difficult days than good days. Correct. It works like a high frequency sinusoidal curve. Correct. The peaks are really, really high.
For your lay, for the people who are not so technically savvy, that's just probably an electric. That's just basically anything that goes up and down like this.
Yes, but there are more. It's definitely difficult. Okay, I will not trivialize the entire journey of being an entrepreneur. It's definitely difficult, for sure.
So they
Because
need to have the grit, the ability to really
yeah,
persevere through challenges and have a very clear vision. So the why, like you said, the why needs to be very clear.
the why is extremely important, because on those dark days, on those bad days, uh, the why will push you to get out of bed and show up to work, even if, despite, irrespective of the market condition, if it's 10% down or 15% down or 20% down, the why will help you to show up at work every single day.
So Avinash, I'm going to put you like in a little bit of a personal spot here. So, what you've gone through those days, I'm sure you still do like once in a while, but a lot less fewer now compared to probably early on in the journey. What was the one thing that you told yourself in the morning when you woke up and you're like, "Damn, how am I going to do this today?" And you actually got yourself out of bed and to the office or like on the field or wherever you had to be that day to actually build the next block of electric paint.
So, I didn't create any backup options for myself when I quit my uh, corporate career, and I said I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. So, so, so
So it
every
was
day,
a now or never. You just jumped off the cliff and you're like, now
yeah,
it's now or never, right?
yeah, and there's no going back. There's no going back seeking a job ever.
Got it.
At least for me. So when I wake up and I say, "Listen, this is the only thing that I have," I have to show up.
You have to show up. No, nice, nice. So yeah. So I think that's very good because a lot of entrepreneurs also, like a few of them that I at least talked to today, some of them also say that, listen, like, like if this doesn't work out, I'll look at the next idea. Yeah, like I have another business that I can go back to, or I'll go back and get a job. So I think not having that parachute or that safety net, I think gives you a completely different sort of drive.
Yeah, it does. That option does not exist for me anymore.
That's good to know. Uh, just like on the last few sort of questions, talk to me about your fundraise journey and how has it been? You've got like apart from us, of course, you've got a bunch of really marquee investors in your cap table. You've raised a few rounds of funding. How has it been? Because you started raising money 2020, 2021. Like 2020 was probably brutal to actually go out and think about this thing. But climate again that time raised more than a few billions of dollars like in India, right? So
Yeah.
so how has your journey been? And give me a few like anecdotes in terms of, you know, questions you were asked, things that you felt like, look, investors could probably think about doing a little better before they actually came and spoke to people like us.
I've been lucky, to be very honest,
Okay.
right? I've been extremely, extremely lucky. My luck credit is very high. Uh, that I ended up meeting the right set of investors at the right time, who had belief, uh, who had a vision towards electrics, which matched with my vision. Right. So yep, I got lucky. I should say, yes. There's hard work. There's follow ups and the regular drill. But I would definitely say I got very lucky.
Got it.
Not just for raising capital, but for raising capital from very very marquee names like you rightly mentioned, GFC, Bloom, Mycelio, correct, and all the investors beyond capital provide me with a lot of support that truly founder friendly, because I live and breathe my day-to-day business life with them. So got lucky.
That's good. Uh, like this is a question that I also have to ask you, but how has your journey been with GFC? And for a minute, just don't look at the GFC logo like on the top right hand corner of your screen. Feel free to be very like candid. How has your journey been with GFC on your campaign?
No, I also made a commitment to myself the day I incorporated the company that I would, never lie, neither to my investors nor to my customers, nor never on LinkedIn, etc., etc., etc. Right? I'll always state facts. I think the experience with GFC, to be accurate, has been excellent because of the following facts. The founding partners themselves are brilliant achievers in themselves. Great. One, two, they're fully committed towards the climate side of the things. All their investments are on the sustainability and climate side. Three, they spotted the trend early. They made the commitment very early on in all most of the companies that they have invested in. Correct, and that takes a lot of conviction. Today, electrics is everybody wants to invest, but coming early on, building conviction early on, correct. When think questions like will people buy EVs are being asked, is a sign. Uh, and beyond capital, like I mentioned, we get amazing support, strategic inputs, hiring, creating awareness, and so to say, even if I just want to rant out, saying that, listen, this is not working, uh, correct, giving me connects, which makes my business developmental cycles shorter, correct, and always available just over a WhatsApp,
Yeah,
literally,
yeah.
correct. I'll get a response in a few seconds. So my experience has been fantastic.
Great. No, that's really heartening to hear. Just before we end, would love to know what is that? Who's your one role model that you want to mimic in life? Who you probably say that, look, this is a guy that I really look up, or this lady is someone who I really look up to. And like I want to essentially emulate them. So who's that one person in your life?
That who that one person is, again, to be accurate, is every student, every employee who has the great Indian quality called the jugaad. And people talk about hustle. It's an English term. It's come from the other side of but Indian jugaad is always greater than the English hustle. I
Sure.
think that's my inspiration. I keep looking up to my colleagues, the employees in the company, who've created something so fantastic, and then continue to. Of course, there's a lot more ground to cover, to be honest, correct. But that persona, all of us who have the quality of jugaad, of getting things done, I think that's something I look up to.
So your role model is Jugaad. If
Yeah,
Jugaad was a person, that would be your role model.
jugaad was a person, and jugaad obviously means that getting things done in the most
Yeah,
smart.
yeah, yeah. The hustle, like what investment parlance people call the hustle, right? Like no matter what someone tells you no, you just like it doesn't stop you. You figure it out. Like you figure out those pieces.
And most importantly, you figure it out in the most effective, optimal, cost efficient manner in the shortest possible time.
Yeah.
That's the persona. So if jugaad was a person.
But sometimes that also means that you need to use sticky tape to hold things up together, which is also not sustainable, right? So you do the jugaad just to probably get through a phase, but then that also needs to be sealed up or put together in a more concretized manner.
So it's like building a sports car while you're racing it,
Yeah,
and with the clear objective of getting to pole position.
nice. Okay, nice. Great. So Avinash, it was a fabulous conversation. Thank you so much on being on this episode of Brute for Change with us. We of course we love you. We really enjoy working with you. Sandeep, who's the managing partner here,
Yeah.
says has 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 only the highest things to say for you. So we're truly honored to be on the journey with you, and we're looking forward to continuing to work with you over the next few years and really being part of this growth journey with ElectricPay. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Karan. The feeling is likewise.
Thank you.